So it's 2026, LLMs still hallucinate, copilots still suck, and most companies still don't know how to turn AI into actual revenue or cost savings. So in this video, I want to give you my take on what I think is going to happen with AI in 2026. And in particular, I'm going to explain what I am paying attention to and what I am simply ignoring. So for those of you that are new to the channel, my name is Ebbelaar. I'm the founder of Datalumina. I'm an AI engineer with over 10 years of experience working in the field. We run an AI development company, so everything that I'm sharing within this video is through the lens of what we see actually happening right now for the client projects that we are working on. So I'm going to go through 7 major things that I've noticed. I got some notes over here and I will share some resources. So let's dive in. And the first point that I want to talk about is the limits of LLMs, and more so the question of whether we are already hitting the limits of what we can do with large language models. So, as you know, one of the biggest issues right now when working with AI, integrating with AI, pretty much doing anything with AI where we use large language models is the big challenge of hallucinations. It's like this coworker that's already pretty smart, but every now and then it just like makes things up. It completely lies about certain things. Now, that's of course not really a coworker that we want to have around, right? And that's really the current state of AI. And the question pretty much becomes like, look, how far can we push all of these new models? How far can we push these various benchmarks that there are? And are we going to reach what we call AGI with the current LLM paradigm that we're dealing with? And while I think throughout this year, we will continue to see better performing models. They will get better at coding. They will get better at certain tasks. The benchmarks will increase. But I think, to be honest, we as, first of all, users and also programmers working with these models are not necessarily going to experience very drastic changes in the terms of like how we extract value from them and how we build applications around them. Yes, coding agents will get better. Yes, they will get better at using multiple tools. But if you really look at what happened in literally the past 2 years, and you compare, for example, like the early like GPT-4o models, which have already been out for a very long time. If you now compare that to the GPT 5.2 models, the way you build applications around these models and how you really integrate them and extract value from them is still pretty much the same. Later in this video, I will talk specifically about the notion of using DAGs versus using pure agents, so we'll get to that. But I think we are not going to experience a real breakthrough just by increasing the benchmarks on all of these tests that we currently have for these models with the current LLMs, the current LLM architecture. So one of the things that I am paying attention to is, for example, the work from Yann LeCun, who was the former, I think, chief of AI at Meta, at least a very well-known and respected AI scientist that has been working in the field for over decades. And earlier last year, so this was a paper submitted in December 2025, there was this interesting paper that was released where Yann LeCun also contributed to, where they introduce a kind of like new paradigm algorithm, if you will, where they compare pretty much the limits and the flaws of LLMs and introduce a new way that we could potentially engineer intelligence. Now, I'm not going to go into the details of this paper, but this is a very interesting read. And if you look at most experts out there, like true experts, the like leading researchers and scientists, they all pretty much say, look, we are hitting a limit, we are hitting a wall with these large language models, and we need to think about it very differently. So I'm very excited to see what will come out of this year and what research breakthroughs we will have. Now, how I pretty much translate that to the current work that we are doing right now is I'm pretty much, I'm very focused on applied AI. So usually I pay attention to science, but unless I can use it in a product or in a project today, I don't really care about it. That's just like what I like to focus on because that's what I do with this YouTube channel. And that's also what we do with our client work. Now, another interesting paper that recently was shared with me was this one about recursive language models. Now, this is just a way to query and chain LLM calls together in a way where we could overcome potentially some of the limits of the context window, the limited context windows that large language models have. So this is not a new algorithm, not really a new paradigm. This is just a clever way to recursively chain language models together, which show really promising results. So I will leave the link to this research paper below this video as well. There are also some code snippets that they shared for you to play around with this yourself. So then, to summarize the current state of LLMs, if you ask the true experts, they think LLMs are going to hit a wall and we need something entirely new. So I'm closely paying attention to that research and where that is heading, but knowing that in the day-to-day right now, LLMs are the best tools, the best AI tools that we can use. So I'm also paying closer attention to new approaches and techniques to maximize the effectiveness of current modern day LLMs, like for example, the paper I just shared. All right, and then topic number 2 that I want to talk about and that I am paying attention to is Google. So as you may know, for the past 2 years, Google was pretty much quiet. We saw OpenAI, Anthropic, DeepSeek from China, and a lot of other labs. And Google was always there, but never really to the point where they had the state-of-the-art models. But over the past half year or so, I would say that pretty much changed. So if you, for example, now look at the ARC AGI benchmarks, you can see that Gemini 3 Deep Thinking is up here, and they have a bunch of good models that score really well. But beyond just pure benchmarks, which I usually don't really care a lot about, what I find way more interesting about Google is that they are essentially owning an entire ecosystem. They own the entire stack. So first of all, if you look at their models, they are currently becoming best in class with the language models, with the image models, and even with the video models. So this is one thing that's really interesting. Next to that, Google is currently the only lab right now that through their TPUs can train their own models and is not reliant on NVIDIA's chips. So if you put this into the equation where they have their own compute, of course, Google is sitting on a wealth of data. They probably have the most data in the world out of any of the AI labs and companies out there right now. And they have been quietly behind the scenes working on all of this. And now you see all of these models pop up and show up. And to kind of like put the cherry on top, and one thing that I am paying attention to as well is Google's A2A protocol. So last year was all about MCP, right? I created an entire video crash course on it. Right now, at least my take is like, yes, MCP works, but it's just a protocol. It's just a way of effectively making tools available for LLMs. Yes, there was prompts and resources in there, but pretty much no one used that. And it's limited to the degree where making tools available for a model is not that complicated. Where Google's A2A comes in is kind of like what I see a step above that, and it can work together with MCP, but this is a protocol, a way for agents to connect and talk with other agents. And instead of just focusing on making the tools available, the A2A protocol solves a much harder challenge, and that is complex workflows, interoperability, and enabling agents to delegate subtasks to each other. And now this is still just a protocol. So there is nothing pretty much that this will enable you to do that you cannot do by writing your own classes and functions, for example. But if I look at this entire ecosystem that Google is building with all of the different modalities, the models that they're training, their A2A protocol, how they are bringing all of that together, and you see some of that already in action in their AI studios, for example, I think Google could potentially be a big winner in 2026, and I'm paying close attention to their new models. All right, and topic number 3 that I want to talk about is the discussion around should you use workflows or agents, or DAGs, directed acyclic graphs or agents, whatever you want to call them. This is this ongoing conversation. And if you look at some of the blog posts from Anthropic, and in particular this one, which is now already over a year old, Building Effective Agents, over a year ago, Anthropic, one of the leading AI labs, pretty much said, look, if you want to build reliable systems with LLMs, you should focus on these simple workflow patterns, the augmented LLM, prompt chaining, routing, all of these ways that you could make your applications more deterministic. And they talked about, look, if you want to use agents, just scrolling down over here, if you really want to use an agent, it pretty much means we have a large language model, we give it some tools, and we let it go in a loop until it has reached its final answer, and then it will get back to you. And in that same blog post, they clearly stated that for most solutions, optimizing single LLM calls is way better than focusing on these agentic workflows. But now, fast forward more than a year, we do see videos popping up, for example, like this, where people or experts are saying, hey, now is the time to say goodbye to DAX. So this is a recent video that I came across on the AI engineering channel. It was about how code works. But the interesting thing is, I would say I disagree with this. And if you read through the comments, you can kind of like see two ends of the spectrum. I definitely agree that models are getting better and better and better at using more and more tools. But if you are working on applications where you just want to be really sure, you want to restrict hallucinations, DAGs still really have their place. So it is now really up to you as an engineer to figure out the right balance between, look, what do I want to make deterministic? What should be a DAG, which I can clearly test, which I clearly have in control, and where can I have a single LLM with just a bunch of tools that I can give a little bit more flexibility and just steer through prompting. This is an ongoing kind of like area of research where also for every solution pretty much that you're building, you need to find that fine middle ground where it just works. So for us and the clients that we're working with, so some of the solutions that we make are still pretty much like full DAGs, and we really want them to be that way and want to keep them that way. But if we look at some of the more kind of like AI assistants where there's a chat interface, there's kind of like a human in the loop, we find that often there it's totally okay to have a bunch of tool calls in there and just let the AI decide and make some decisions and then get back to the user. The big distinction is also, look, what is the effect of a potential error or hallucination within this particular process? If it's a human in the loop in a chat interface, it's usually not that big of a deal because the human that is in the loop can course correct and can pretty much say, hey, look, I actually meant this, or can you try it like that? And we can do another iteration. Whereas, for example, if you are building a very strict process relating to, I don't know, a process within a banking system, you of course want to be almost 100% sure that it works every single time, and you don't want this giant God prompt really with just a bunch of tool calls that pretty much say, hey, just go figure it out. Here are the rules, 50 tools that you can use, go at it. So finding that fine balance for the solution and the problem that you are solving is still within 2026 going to be a big engineering challenge. So remember that whenever you see these bold statements where people say, hey, goodbye DAX, or go all in on MCP, or LLMs are not useful anymore, always take that with a grain of salt and just know that it's very, very much use case specific. And then coming back to the Anthropic blog post, just remember with pretty much anything in life, but in particular with engineering, always try to find the simplest solution first, and then increasing complexity later. So this is also with all the tools, frameworks, everything that you need. If it can just be a few simple Python functions that you chain together and that can solve your problem reliably, then that's probably the best solution. All right, and that brings us to point number 4, and that is agentic coding. Now, this is going to be a big one, and this is where I expect to see still major improvements over the capabilities that we currently have. So one interesting property of large language models is that they're super good at coding. And I feel like when it comes to the data sets that we have and that people can prepare, and that fine-tuning these models on tool calling specifically for agentic coding tasks is going to be an area where we can still squeeze a lot of efficiency and a lot of performance out of the current architectures that we are working with. So the interesting thing is that this is not only just the model capabilities, but this is also the prompts and the tools behind the tools that we're using. So if you look at Cursor, if you look at Claude Code, they kind of like go hand in hand. They are improving their tools, their prompts, and you get better models. And overall, it just gets better and better and better. And not only that, but also since this is such a rapidly growing field where so much people are spending and focusing time on this because it's such a huge gain for developer productivity, you also see all of these best practices and strategies pop up. So we have things like spec-driven development, whole workflows around how you should structure your documents and your kind of like development workflows and life cycles to maximize the effectiveness of these AI agents that can help you with coding. So this is a very big area that I am paying attention to. So one blog post that I want to share for this one is Claude Code Best Practices for Agentic Coding. So if you're new to this, if you haven't seen this one, I highly recommend just giving this a read. This will pretty much get you up to speed on what's currently possible. And then if you want to dive deeper into this, I recommend looking into spec-driven development, which is currently, at least in my opinion, like the best way to go about using these agentic coding tools without it becoming just like pure vibe coding. So within this area, I am paying very close attention to everything that is happening. In particular, Claude Code and Cursor. I use a hybrid right now where I use Claude Code within Cursor, but I also use the Cursor chat. So I kind of like go back and forth. And this is really a skill that I am perfecting, because as an engineer, this is literally the best productivity tool that I have at my disposal. And knowing how to use these tools to pretty much the best of their current capabilities and staying on top of things is one of the best things you can do as a developer going into 2026, because there's no way around this. This is not going away. This is only going to get better. So understand the fundamentals, still learn how to code, because you still need that. You can't just vibe code your way to the best applications and solutions. But if you're a good engineer and you know how to use these tools effectively, that's where really everything accelerates. All right, and then another topic that I am constantly trying to learn more about, get better at, is context engineering. And now I'm going to keep this short because I made an entire video on context engineering recently, which I will link below this video as well. But context engineering, it was a hot topic last year. Working with LLMs has always been about context engineering, but we didn't really have a proper name for it yet. But this is about all the tools, techniques, and strategies that you use as a developer in order to get the right context at the right time in front of the right model. So whether you use DAGs, whether you use agents, context engineering is always super relevant whenever you are working with LLMs. And this is the single most important skill and a strategy that you can apply in order to improve LLM applications over time. Okay, and then topic number 6 that I want to talk about is voice. And I strongly believe that over the next decade, voice is going to be the primary interface through which we as humans are going to interact with technology. So right now, we do everything via our smartphones, using our thumbs. Behind our laptops and PCs, we use our peripherals, our mouse and keyboard. And there is a very limiting factor to pretty much the speed to which we can think and translate that to pixels on our screens. And voice is on average 4 to 5 times faster than using a keyboard or using your thumbs on your smartphone. And with the advance of LLMs, voice technology, tool calls, I strongly believe that this is where the future is heading. But like I said, this is going to be a transition over a decade. So next year, we'll still be using our keyboards, but I strongly believe that more and more applications will start to support voice. And if you look at some of the leading companies again, OpenAI, for example, bets big on audio as Silicon Valley declares war on screens. So there's a lot going on in Silicon Valley where they are putting together teams working really on state-of-the-art tools in order to make voice interfaces and make interacting with technology much more accessible and much quicker. And what I'm personally doing to keep up with this trend, beyond just getting better at instructing applications via voice and giving voice prompts, but I'm also actually working on an application that can help with this that you're looking at right now. So I am really bullish on voice-to-text applications, and you'll see them pop up more and more within the current applications that you're already using, as well as standalone applications that work across many apps, for example, like the tool I am working on right now. Now, this tool is not yet publicly available, so if you're interested and want to learn more, you can sign up for a waitlist and we will share more about what we're working on behind the scenes. So the main takeaway here is pay special attention to voice and get used to working with these tools. Whatever tool you're using, get used to instructing technology using your voice. All right, and then the final point that I want to talk about is assuring you that we are still so early. When you are watching this video right now, it means you're already in literally the top percentile of people understanding the current state of AI. You might feel like you're just getting started. You might feel like you have no idea what's going on. But the fact that you're here watching this video, you went through all of the things that I just said, already put you in a category of its own. If you look at out there, generally, how companies are using and leveraging AI, we are just at the start. We are just beginning. And how do I know that? Well, like I said in the beginning of this video, we run an AI development company, and through this YouTube channel and all of our other social channels, we get a whole lot of project requests. Now, we can never fully take on all of these project requests, but we do have really good insights as to, for example, things like, hey, how mature is your use of AI? So you can see it all over the place, but the majority is still like, look, we have no idea. So these are companies reaching out to us that want to get started with AI and are literally just at the start, like zero. We are not doing anything with it. So you can see there is a wide range of AI maturity out there. Now, this is a very limited sample size, but I think this gives a clear picture of where we're currently at. So you can see we get requests from companies of all sizes, from enterprises even to like solo freelancers, whether people have an in-house engineering team in place and what they potentially need help with. But having been in the space for so long and having worked with literally dozens of companies, usually the starting point is, hey Dave, yeah, we're literally just getting started. We have a bunch of people using ChatGPT at our company, but we want to get more sophisticated with it. Can you help us? Hey, and by the way, if you're an engineer and you're looking at these project requests and you're like, damn, 225 project requests, that's cool. I wish I could get 3 that maybe turn into 1 paying customer, but I have no idea where to start. They might want to check out the first link in the description. There's a page of me going over how I can help you with that. We have a community where I help technical professionals to get started with freelancing, land their first client, and scale from there. So if you've been thinking about freelancing, AI consulting, but don't really know where to start, this could be something for you. So also don't feel overwhelmed by how fast and how quickly things are moving. If you really look at the core fundamentals of working with LLMs, how you build applications around them, everything that I share on this channel, that is all still true today. Even though things are changing quickly, the code bases that we used 2 years ago still work. They are still running in production. All we did was pretty much swap out the latest models, change the prompts a little bit, and every now and then introduce a tool call in there. But that's it. So I want to put that out there to reassure you. I know that a lot of people watching this channel are developers. You might be learning, you might be just getting started. So know that you are in the right spot. And if you see yourself having a career within the AI field, there's so much things that you can focus on and you don't have to figure it all out at once. Figure out what you want to focus on. What do you want your specialty to be? Do you want to get really technical AI engineering? Do you want to build with N8N, Zapier? Do you want to do AI consulting? There are so many ways that you can capitalize on this current AI trend that's going on right now, and that will continue to be the same for 2026 as well. So that wraps up this video. Those were kind of the 7 things that I wanted to talk about, where I'm paying special attention to, trends that I'm seeing, things that I'm focusing on. Hopefully this was helpful to you as well. If you found it helpful, please leave a like and also consider subscribing. And then what I recommend next is to check out either one of these 2 videos that will pop up on the screen over here to continue learning about AI.